about this.
Wax on, wax off. No, I am your father. Why did it have to be snakes?
Welcome to the Biscuits and Gravy Odyssey. I'm Dennis.
And I'm Chris.
We'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the people who downloaded the podcast and started listening to it. We got a pretty good following starting, and we really appreciate everyone who's commented on the social media pages. And I have to say, Chris, I'm pretty happy with, we have 2 downloads from Germany.
That is incredible.
Octoon, baby.
Octoon. 9.
9. We need 9. So listen, if you're the guy out there downloading these podcasts from Germany, spread the word, man. We'd just like to thank everyone. Pretty sure there's a Sonic up this way.
We spent so long looking for a Sonic on our way in just to try to find the right route because you knew there was a Sonic on the road that you wanted to take into.
In my defense, you know what? We should have had the security team with us this time.
We probably should have, but you're like neurotic about.
Well, it's like
it totally threw you off that you were.
It did. I'm
going to
trying
possibly take the wrong route when the car was telling you which way to go and you didn't like that route and you would have got there at the same time in the same, but just a different street, and it was just throwing you off.
Well, it's because I kind of pride myself on good directions, right? You know, so like, and not the GPS or, you know, anything. I kind of, pride myself on that. And when I found myself, I don't want to use the word lost, but it was throwing me like this is not the way I roll.
Good, yeah.
You know, and at first when we turned off on it was 52, because that's my age.
52?
Yeah. So, I just gave my age away. Again, what's with the look?
I don't know.
It just kind of threw me for a loop,
Yeah. No, I got you. No, you're Mr. Good Direction Man. I'm Mr. Bad Decision Man usually. So that's,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you know what? Usually when we're either doing some kind of road trip, me and you're like, where am I going? Where do I turn? And that's not even with GPS stuff. So yeah, that's why it kind of threw me. I guess I should have just put the bunny back in the box.
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah, so that was, it did kind of throw me. I don't know.
No, but that was good. But we we got here. You got to stop at Dunkin' and get your coffee.
I did get my coffee.
So we're good.
What I don't understand is when I did finally start following the GPS and to the studio, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in downtown, and kind of like you have arrived at your destination, and it's like we are nowhere near the studio. And we are in downtown.
You had the wrong address in your GPS,
I guess,
which could have attributed to all the previous mix-ups.
Yeah, so we did get to the studio a little bit late, and kind of threw my game off a little bit with getting started. So
yeah, but we're on track now.
Oh yeah,
doing good.
Oh, definitely. Kind of looking forward to talking about the old spider senses tingling.
Yep, spider senses are tingling.
Yeah,
they are tingling. Can't wait to get moving on this one, on this episode 3.
Side note, I like your shirt. It says Star Wars and it's got Darth Vader. Is he pointing his finger out? He's got Force lightning.
He's using Force lightning.
But I like the graphics on it. Kind of looks like he's silvery and mirrory looking. It's kind of cool. It's a different. Ooh, I shouldn't have said.
All right, tonight's episode is going to be No Way Home.
Yeah, I kind of like web, shoot, swing. Wouldn't that be okay?
I think No Way Home would be a little more appropriate.
Boring. Yeah, I don't know. I guess so. I don't know.
I'm not sure I like web, swing, swing, shoot, shoot.
That's, well, people use it. Isn't that?
Actually, in this one, it would be web, swing, swing, swing.
Oh, I
shoot,
see.
Shoot,
the three.
Shoot.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
Spoiler alert. Watch out.
All right. If you're one of the few people in the country or in the world that hasn't seen Spider-Man No Way Home yet, disclaimer, there's going to be spoilers in here.
And also, I mean, I guess it's right in the title of the episode of the podcast, so No Way Home. So if they've gotten this far, I guess, in for a pound, in for a penny? No. 8 days a week? What? No.
I'm going to hold your hand. What?
No, yeah. Well, they're in for the ride. So yeah, it's definitely Spider-Man spoilers here. So all right. Let's see. This one, I don't know how to say it. What I love about this one is the continuity. Bringing in all the Spider-Mans from the past. All having them in the same movie, you know what I mean? It kind of brings it all together, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't sure leading up to the movie for the last months and months how that was all going to play out, how they're going to bring the other two Spider-Men back in, but I love the fact that they did. It's a great idea, a great concept.
Is one of the things that's always bugged me about any of these superhero movies, Batmans and Spider-Mans, they're always rebooting them, So it's like, okay, after a certain point, it's like, oh, okay, here's another person's version of Spider-Man or Batman. It's like, whatever. In my mind, I need that continuity, something that ties it all together. And this movie actually did that. This explained all they had to say was multiverse. These all happened at the same time in different realms of reality. And I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm good with that. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
Now, so the beginning of this movie is pretty much picking up right where Far From Home left off. When we find our Tom Holland Spider-Man, Peter Parker, battling McFisto, McLovin? Mysterio, yes, that's it. Mysterio. Well, yeah, anyway, so, he was, the whole movie, good guy, actually bad guy, blah, blah, blah. But it's revealed Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Big deal. I mean,
right.
Well,
as we saw at the end of the movie, of the end of the previous movie, they edited little clips of things that he said to make him look like he was the bad guy, like he wanted all these people killed, and so this sets up the whole, that Spider-Man's a bad guy.
Okay, I get that, and I get this is a standalone Spider-Man movie, but did the entire world forget the Spider-Man from Endgame? I mean, he's an Avenger.
The whole world forgets a lot of stuff real quick. I mean,
I guess.
Trust me, we live in a what have you done for me lately society. We really do. So yes, the whole world can forget that real quick, what he did.
I guess, but I mean, how powerful that the end game was, and he was part of that. He's an Avenger, you know what I'm saying? And
right,
all of a sudden, because it's his standalone movie, and he's got to be that unconfident high school kid. All of a sudden, he's back into that role of, gee, mister. Oh, it's like.
Right, but as far as the world forgetting, I mean, it was a pretty serious accusation of what he did wrong that was accused by Mysterio that the whole world saw. They heard him saying to execute all them.
Yeah.
And he didn't mean what they thought he meant, but it's how words can be manipulated.
Well, they didn't arrest him. They didn't, but anyways, they had to put him back into that role of Spider-Man standalone movie kind of thing. And I just kept thinking, he's a freaking Avenger. You know what I mean? They just had to spin it differently, I guess.
True, but that's true. But there's a lot of parts of the world that they don't care too much for the Avengers. We saw that before Endgame.
Okay,
we saw all the things that the Avengers did, and everyone was against them. That was the whole storyline of Civil War. I mean, that was
and I guess in this movie too, they actually, because they do touch on how Stark Industry was starting to get investigated and stuff. So, okay, I could see that maybe that the atmosphere was changing on the whole superhero thing. So, okay. All right, I get that. So anyways, due to all this, Peter Parker's life becomes a mess, basically, and it's affecting him as far as, like you said, being accused of wanting all these people executed and killing Mysterio. Yeah, that's it. And not being able to get into college, and that's affecting MJ and Ned. They can't get into college, which, well, that's another sidebar. Like, okay, you're an Avenger. What do you care about college? But, well, we'll move on from that. But, so his life is becoming a mess. So, I mean, at that point, he wants to change it. So he goes and he searches out someone who's able to do that, which Doctor Strange. He's magic, and he's basically asking Doctor Strange for some help.
Which, I mean, that point itself was kind of the means for the entire movie. There couldn't have had a movie if he didn't see Doctor Strange, and if Doctor Strange didn't agree to do this.
Which then touches upon my next subject about Doctor Strange. I mean, right?
Well, Doctor Strange, it was a strange. I mean, I never could have pictured Doctor Strange, that character of Doctor Strange, doing this for him. Although this is kind of the storyline of some of the comic book lore. Doctor Strange did do this in the comic books.
Okay, but let's talk about the cinematic universe of this. In Doctor Strange, what we've seen of him and his character up to this point, I mean, he does this for Peter, does this spell to make people forget. And in the middle of conjuring the spell, Peter kind of keeps interrupting him. Well, no, I want MJ to remember me at least. At least let her remember me. And so he's like, okay, he agrees to it, but it's screwing up the spell. So the spell's going haywire and blah, blah, blah. And it happens, and the chaos that ensues after is fine. And that's the movie. But then Doctor Strange basically looks at him and is like, fix this, I'm out of here, you fix it. Now, would your Doctor Strange from the Avengers do that? No, he wouldn't.
That's totally out of the character of the Benedict Cumberbatch Doctor Strange. It's totally out of
the what?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Well, who's that?
It's Mephisto. No, it's Doctor Strange. That's the actor that plays Doctor
Strange. I knew that. I was testing you.
They're testing you.
What's his name?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
It's kind of funny.
Kind of like Dr. Otto Octavius.
Cumberbatch?
Yeah.
Cumberbun?
Cumberbun, yeah.
Okay. All right. Go on.
He's a doctor of tuxedos.
Yeah, right.
Cumberbun. So, yeah, that's totally out of that Doctor Strange character. Totally out of character for him. But he does do it, and
it's to facilitate the plot, right? I mean,
right. I mean, you have no plot without that. So they had to have it. They had to make it happen.
Okay.
And they had to alter his character a little bit to make that happen.
Okay, so we have to just accept this and move on now. Okay.
Right.
So the multiverse has been unleashed, and I have to say the very first the first sign of that would be Peter Parker on that overpass trying to talk to that college administrator.
Administrator, right?
When who shows up?
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock, one of the coolest villains.
That, and I have to say, I mean, that was awesome.
It was, you know what? And seeing this movie in theaters, it was one of the times where I've heard the most like applause in a theater. I mean, probably even more times even than Endgame. I mean, Endgame was a lot of times of just, you know, roaring applause in the theater. But this one, there were so many moments throughout, which obviously we'll talk about each of those moments. But when Doc Ock comes through out of the smoke kind of, and you see his arms, you know, walking on the ground, and the theater just erupted.
Yeah, I mean, just to see him battle him, it's nostalgia because it's Tobey Maguire's villain, right?
Yep.
That's where, he was in that movie.
It was in the second one.
Seeing that's just like you love seeing that battle, and I think because at that point he still has the Stark Industry. He's got the Stark Industry Spider-Man suit on, right? Because he's got the little extra
the
spider legs that come out. And that's actually
it's one of those instant suits that he presses a button and he doesn't have to take off.
And that's really
suit underneath it or anything.
And that's really how he defeated Dr. Ock because of the symbiotic or whatever. It kind of took over.
It took over his legs, his hands. Which was super. I mean, that was just a great scene. It was a great way for him to.
Yeah, and then they did a little funny, like puppet kind of master thing going on.
He's like waving and stuff with his hand, which is cool.
That was kind of cool.
And the hands even turned red.
Yeah, like the suit.
Like the suit.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Kind of like a little bit of venomish, you know?
Yeah,
taking over.
Yep.
Listen, let's just let's take a break real quick, and then we'll get back to it.
Hey, man, what are you doing here? I heard from Susie that you were running a 5K.
Yeah, she thinks I'm running a 5K, when really I just dropped 5K. Booyah!
How are you going to go home from the casino and make her think that you just ran a 5K?
I got that covered. ShamGuard, positive perspirant odorant.
What's that? I never heard of it.
Check it out. ShamGuard makes you look and smell like you just got done with a steel cage match with John Cena.
Man, that could really come in handy when the foreman comes around and I haven't gotten any work done because I've been listening to podcasts all day.
Well, here, try some.
Ooh, that stinks. I love it. I got to get me some of that.
Hey, I just hit the jackpot.
Thanks to ShamGuard, so did I. All right, welcome back to the Biscuits and Gravy Odyssey, No Way Home. We were talking about the movie. I just wanted to jump back to kind of earlier in the film when it first started. The first thing that happens after they repeat the stuff from Far From Home. The ending, you see come up on the big screen in New York, J. Jonah Jameson, reporting on Star Wars and this Mysterio thing.
Star Wars.
No. Did I just say Star Wars?
You did just say Star Wars. That's okay. That's because you're wearing a Star Wars shirt.
It
That's
must
why.
be.
Which is a cool shirt, by the way.
Thank you. And I'm using drinking out of my Darth Vader
tiki.
Geeky Tiki.
Well, you know what? We're going to have to put that up on the Facebook page.
That I got from my nephew.
We'll put that up on the Facebook page.
We will. We'll post this Star Wars Geeky Tiki mug. It's actually super cool. They have a number of different ones.
All right. Hang on. This is free advertisement we're giving out.
That's it. You know what?
I see. We're trying to grease the wheels. I got you.
So, sorry. I don't know why I said Star Wars. No. Anyway.
Okay, so I get you. And until you mentioned it, I just fully accepted that Jacob Jingleheimer Jameson was in the movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you said, wait a minute.
Wait, he was actually from the Tobey Maguire universe and the editor of the Daily Bugle, but in this universe, he's like a YouTube,
because Tom Holland's movies, there's been no Daily Bugle,
No,
right?
So seeing him, I actually didn't. When I first saw it, I didn't even put two and two together, and was like, "What the heck is he in this movie?"
You just accept it because you know him as
right. You see him, and you're like, "Oh,
Jameson, yeah,
from the Daily Bugle." But it's a completely different universe. He's not even in this group of movies, and now he is. But he's not the editor of the Daily Bugle. He's like,
but it's the same character.
It's the same character,
same
and
look, everything,
and he's in news and everything. But he's like doing his own like little green screen YouTube show or whatever.
I wonder if he's got a podcast.
He probably, if he's smart, he does.
Well, yeah, you're right. That did kind of blow my mind. It was like when you said that, I was like, oh crap, yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, so all right, so at this point, after Doc Ock comes and Peter gets him, isn't there a quick scene where you seen the Green Goblin show up?
Yeah, then Green Goblin shows up as well.
And then it cuts to I was going to say Toby, but no, Tom Holland's Spider-Man at Doctor Strange's place with Doc Ock, and in that dungeon, the Wizard's dungeon, right. You know.
He's got them in like cells.
Right. And that's actually when Doctor Strange, you know, because Peter's there, MJ, and Ned is there. And that's when Doctor Strange kind of goes out of character and tells them. This was one of the most cringy moments, in my opinion, was the whole Doctor Strange telling the kids to Scooby-Doo this shit. Yeah. I mean, talk about out of character. And then MJ correcting him, I know magic words also, like please. Millennial. Yeah, and then he says, please Scooby-Doo this shit. Yeah. As much as he was out of character for the previous incident, that line, he wouldn't have said something like that. Yeah. So I didn't like that. That wasn't necessary to the plot line. A silly line, and that was something that we knew was coming because they had that in every preview. They had this Scooby-Doo this shit thing. So, all right. So sorry for how many times we just said shit because this is Yeah, well, you know what? Podcast. You know what? I think our fine producer will probably be able to beat this out because it's a family-friendly show, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you guys are just quoting the show.
Yeah, or we're just quoting the show. All right, so at this point, then it doesn't seem to become like a pretty rapid fire of villains from the multiverse. Right. I mean, they come in flooding different ways. You get electrifying Grease Lightning Man. You know, you get Enter Sandman. You know, Sandman, yeah. Into light. No. All right, relax. Yeah. Okay, Sandman, and then you got the Lizard, which is basically kind of like a DC Killer Croc. Is this Marvel's version of Killer Croc? Yeah, well, DC's. Yeah, a lot of things are DC's are Marvel's versions of this or that, So, but it's who came first, Killer Croc or Lizard? That I don't know. Well, Killer Croc is a way better name than Lizard. That's his name, right? Lizard. Yeah, but Lizard was a cooler character than Killer Crocs in the Suicide Squad. But that's another movie. Yeah, that is. So, at that point, you also see a little bit more about the Green Goblin because that character is basically split personality. Yeah. The Green Goblin is another entity. And when it's almost like more psychological than chemical, but it's almost like venom. It's part of him. So, actually I don't even what's the character's name? Not Green Goblin. What's the actual character's name? Bob? Ted? Oh, that's Bill and Ted? Why am I drawing a blank? Let's just call him
It's getting old.
Henry.
It's Oswald.
Oswald. Cobblepot? No.
Oswald Cobblepot.
That's Penguin. Okay, so Oswald. So he like confronts
Norman Oswald.
Norman. So Norman like confronts the Green Goblin in his head and makes this defiant crushing of the mask and no, I'm gonna be in charge.
Which he did in his
it was really good
in the Tobey Maguire movies too. There was that struggle, and he would like, no, I'm not going to be him anymore.
And I tell you what, that guy can act the heck out of that character and jumping back and forth. I mean, he's
Willem Dafoe.
He's
not his first rodeo.
And our producer Lucas had told me that the only way he'd sign on is if he was allowed to do his own stunts, and he's like 60-something years old.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I don't even do my own stunts.
No, definitely not. So then it kind of cuts to Peter goes to Aunt May's, I don't know, animal shelter homeless shelter, and I just said animal shelter. I was trying to be funny, I guess.
That's not really funny.
No, it isn't really. Okay, so why are you looking at me like that, man?
So
anyways, there's Norman, down and out with Aunt May sitting there, and he's drinking a cup of coffee and kind of asking for help. Like, I got this voice in my head, and I just need blah, 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 need help and all that. So at that point, that's where the Green Goblin kind of comes into play, but he's not the Green Goblin, he's Norman.
And Peter's ready to like send them back. He's like, I got to send them back. And Aunt May was actually the one that says, no, you can't send them back. You have to help them. And he's like, but that's not my problem. And she's like, it is. That's what we do here. Yeah. This is your problem. This is our problem here. So they go back to Dr. Strange's place, and Dr. Strange wants to send them all back.
And at this point, Dr. Strange has captured Lizard.
Yep.
So you got Doc Ock and Lizard in the cells, in the dungeon there. And I believe he puts Green Goblin or Norman in a cell too, right?
Right, at that point, because he doesn't trust him.
And that's where the discussion between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man take place about sending them back or not sending them back. Because at this point, Peter realizes, because of the discussion of the villains, that they die. So, because of what Aunt May said, if he sends them back, he knows they're going to die, and he doesn't want to do it.
Right, so he wants to cure them of their different
wicked ways
of their evilness.
Yes.
And before he sends them back, so they
and Doctor Strange is like, you know what? We can't tamper with the multiverse. We know very little about it. Their fate is sealed. That's just the way it's supposed to be. So now there's the conflict between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. And now this scene, I actually liked. This next little sequence is when Spider-Man and Doctor Strange kind of battle. Because that's one thing I do love about the Doctor Strange movies. Those weird mind-altering or reality-altering battles where buildings turn inside out and upside down.
Yeah, the whole scene felt like I was watching Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio.
So that's what I did like about that, Would Spider-Man best, Doctor Strange? I mean, he did in this one for a short time.
It's kind of surprising that he did. I found another point in the movie where I'm like, it's Doctor Strange. I liked Spider-Man and all, but
and what's he basically do? He shoot webs and he hangs them from the
web.
See?
Swing maybe.
That's what I'm talking about. That should have been the title. Okay. Well, anyways, I think it's more of an eye catcher. We need a hook.
We need hook.
Eye catcher. Yeah, so he hangs him from a tree in a web and then steals his magic ring. And then takes off.
Which is pretty nifty. It's like covers 2-finger ring.
Well, yeah, it's almost like brass knuckles, kind of.
Yeah. It's like a half brass knuckle.
Right, which then comes into play with old Nettie Boy later on. So then we get Peter Parker there working with the villains at it was Happy's apartment, right?
Yeah, he's working. He's working with them. He's cured Doc Ock.
Right? Yeah.
He's trying to work with Norman, with Green Goblin, and this is one of those points in the movie that's like so cool because you can see how in tune Tom Holland's Spider-Man's spider senses
are really tingly.
Because he's
tingly jingly.
He sensed Green Goblin coming out of Norman switching personalities back to. He even sensed that he had such a strong spider sense,
right?
Because he's like senses this, and so Norman turns back into the Green Goblin,
right, and
starts fighting with him, blowing up, doing those sending his little green bombs and stuff.
Yeah.
Which ultimately, after a long scene, ends up killing Aunt May, and which is kind of
that was. I like how they played that death scene out because it wasn't a quick death. It was a slow death, and it was she's all right, she's going to be okay. She's even said so, and then at that point you're like, okay, which way are they going to go with this? But then
it gave a little more closure.
I mean, it was,
I think, probably to Peter than in the other films where Uncle Ben gets shot by someone and he's not even there. He just runs up to the body afterwards with the other universes.
Yeah, it probably made it even more of a not a stressful, but more of a traumatic incident for Peter because he was right there when it happened.
Right. But
had
said,
the
opportunity to speak with her.
That being a major turning point in Peter's life. So I mean, you brought that up. Like that's his.
That's that's one of the things that this movie to me was, not this movie. I shouldn't say this Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man. I love Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But he's kind of that high school kid, like completely. He never has like grown.
And that's the thing in the beginning when they first introduced him in the Avengers stuff. When they first he was too much high school kid for me. I was kind of like, because for me, Toby is my Spider-Man. So.
No, that didn't bother me that much then, but you need to grow and you need to be a confident Spider-Man. There's one thing for
being in the Avengers, if that doesn't do it for you, something's got to do it for you. Aunt May's death, huh? I don't know.
Yeah, because the other two Spider-Men in their first movies, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, in their first movies, Uncle Ben dies. So they have this moment where they kind of become
the tragedy,
the maturity
that transforms them from the high school kid to. But see, that's what I'm saying. So with that transformation didn't take place while he was an Avenger, it took place when Aunt May died. Which,
if anything, I'm a little surprised that it didn't take place when Tony Stark died because
that was
so close to him, and Peter really still had this childishness in the last movie in Far From Home, which was post Tony Stark's death, and it's not that. It's not as Peter Parker. I think Tom Holland is a great Peter Parker, and he's a good Spider-Man. But he lacks confidence as Spider-Man, whereas the other two Spider-Men don't. They became more confident in themselves.
Right. So at this point, Aunt May dies, and he's traumatized. Right. I mean, he's
there.
And that's when MJ and Ned are trying to find him.
MJ and Ned are at Ned's parents' house or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find. They see something on the TV about Spider-Man kills someone else or whatever.
And he's gotten Doctor Strange's ring from Peter somehow, right? I can't recall.
Right. Ned got the Peter gave him the ring.
Yeah. Right.
So they're trying to find Peter. So Ned starts doing the Doctor Strange portal
which he earlier in the movie kind of alluded to that he had the history of magic in his family. That at that point in the early movie, you laugh off as a joke, like yeah, whatever. But
so he starts doing these movement, motions the circular motions to make the portals,
the flaming circle portal,
and they're looking for Peter Parker. So like, where's Peter Parker? So then they do this, and all of a sudden this portal opens up, and here comes Andrew Garfield, and the theater erupts.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool.
It was super cool. So then later in the same scene, they do it again, and Tobey Maguire walks through, and the theater erupted
all right,
again.
so now we have our 3 Spider-Men.
Yeah, we got all 3 Spider-Men.
Okay, now I just have to say that.
Would they be Spider-Men then? Or would they just be Spider-Mans?
Spider-Mans.
Plural. Spider-Man.
Spider-Men.
Spider-Man. Or apostrophe S. Spider-Mans?
Yeah. Mans, yeah.
Or just, no, actually just Spider-Man and S. Just no apostrophe.
I don't know. We're going to have to do some research
I'm not sure if you can call them Spider-Men.
Spider-Men.
Not really sure.
I don't know.
Anyway.
So we got these 3 Spider-Men. Spider-Man. We got the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, one's amazing. The other 2 are just
Spider-Man.
Regular. They're average at best.
All right, so I just want to touch on this real quick. Out of the 3, the only one that can produce web from his body, web, shoot from his body, is the Tobey Maguire.
Right. And they comment on that in there. They're like, you don't have to, we have to make ours in a lab. That comes right out of you.
Which is kind of, I mean, this is my point. Okay, get bit by a spider. You got these powers of climbing and spider senses.
I like the.
You need the spider, the webbing to come out of your orifices.
Yes, I personally like that concept that he makes this web himself in.
What other superhero who has actual superpowers also uses gadgets? I can't think of any. Now you got a Batman who's got no superpowers. He's all gadgets. Fine, good. But here we got guy with superpowers, but he's got to make gadgets for webs. I don't buy it. That's one more reason why I like the Tobey.
All right, we know your affinity for Tobey Maguire.
Hey, I'm just saying. I mean,
Tobey Maguire and McFisto, those are your favorites.
McFisto, baby.
All right. Yeah. On that note, we're going to cut to a break, and we'll be back in a minute.
Hey, welcome back. Hey, how was your vacation?
It was great. But I have to tell you, now that my kids are all teenagers, we don't get that special family premium boarding. We can't even find 2 seats together.
I never have that problem.
What? How? Your kids are grown too.
I'll tell you how. Rent-A-Kid Premium Pass.
What's that?
It's easy. Check it out. You call up Rent-A-Kid, you give them your flight info. Then they will have a toddler there at the gate waiting in time for family boarding. Guaranteed.
Okay. But what happens to the kid when you land?
You know what? I'm glad you asked. Rent-A-Kid will already have them booked with another family for the return flight.
That's amazing. I'm going to call Rent-A-Kid for our next vacation.
Yep. And if that boarding option doesn't get you on the plane fast enough, they also have Rent-A-Senior. The only way you're getting on the plane any faster than that, you'd have to be the pilot.
All right, welcome back. I did want to mention, again, don't forget to like us on Facebook. We're at The Biscuits and Gravy Odyssey, or follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Biscuits and Gravy Pod. Getting back to the discussion here.
So now we're sitting here with the 3 Spider-Men. Vitamin?
No.
Yeah. 3 Spider-Men.
Well, I mean, they had to go and physically go find.
Well, I might be fast forwarding a little bit, or just, but at this point, we have our 3 Spider-Men.
Yes, we have our 3 Spider-Men.
And they're kind of talking about each of their lives. Yeah.
Yeah, they're there's a lot of different discussion because then they go and they start working in the lab on trying to do this serum thing, and there's a lot of talking back and forth between
while
them
they're doing that.
while they're doing that and stuff.
They do a lot of the kind of telling the Tom Holland Peter Parker about not becoming bitter and going down the dark path because of the death of Aunt May.
He's upset about that, and so they're working on the serum, and there's a lot of little jokes back and forth. It's actually really funny at different parts, and at one point before they're going to go fight, one of the funniest lines in the movie, because up until the point when the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire come through, into this universe, Tobey Maguire is like dressed in like a jacket and jeans and stuff, and so before they're gonna go fight, Andrew Garfield's like says to Maguire, he's like, "Are you gonna go battle as a cool youth pastor, or do you have your suit on?" And he like kind of pulled his shirt down a little bit to show that he had a suit on underneath. I thought it was a great line.
Yeah, that was funny.
So, and then another point I wanted to make, because backtracking just a little bit, when Ned was doing opening the portals and stuff, it's actually a funny, kind of foreshadowing here for the possible future.
Oh yeah, that's. You told me something about Ned, that's something in the comic books that
because that character, and I didn't realize this in previous movies, because there's so many characters in these movies, and you don't pay attention to what their names are and this and that. But this Ned is Ned Leeds, who is actually becomes the Hobgoblin in the comic book series. So
that is that foreshadowing when Ned says to Peter about, "Don't worry, I'm not going to turn evil," with the magic he's using and all that. So is that?
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to turn into a supervillain and try to kill you or something.
Yeah, I mean, is that?
And I think that's 100% foreshadowing. I'm sure they're going to do something with Ned, because of how this ends, especially because of the way this movie ends. So that's exciting to kind of look forward to in the future, because from what I understand, Tom Holland signed on for like 3 more movies, or
the college
signed on for 1, but there's like 2 more that
Spider-Man Gone Wild.
So he's going to be around for a while.
Spring break with Spider-Man, Daytona Beach, Daytona. Well, never mind. So, anyways, okay. So at that point, do you think we're going to see a less awkward high school?
I think let's get back to let's get back in, because we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So now all the villains are kind of dispersed now. They're all on the run. They're creating the serum to try to find them and administer the serum and turn them good before they snap them back to their universes. So then there's this whole fight scene, kind of
the big fight scene with all the villains versus the Spider-Man, and
right, which has all the villains. It's got Sandman, it has Lizard, it has Green Goblin, it has Electro.
Now Sandman, didn't he actually save Tobey Maguire's character in that battle? Like, because he really wasn't a bad guy. He just wanted to.
Sandman was never really a bad guy. He just wanted to go home and see his daughter and stuff.
So I think they even
he didn't
show
have a
him
problem with Peter Parker. He never had a problem. The other guys all had a problem with Peter Parker.
Right.
Sandman was just Peter Parker was in his way, and that was even in the original movie when they were together.
I mean, that's just a sidebar, but. So so the big battle scene happens.
And I think to an extent, Lizard was not too far behind in that. Lizard wasn't really that horrible of a character.
And at this point in the movie, Doc Ock is kind of changed, so he's good.
Oh yeah,
so basically,
Doc Ock had the struggles as well in previous movies. He had the struggles with letting these arms, because Doc Ock wasn't a bad. the only salving that they needed to do for Doc Ock was to get those arm things from controlling him, because the arms were what was evil,
right.
And that was what was making. Because all they had to do was kind of stop that, and then he's fine.
Hey, how did the Green Goblin become the Green Goblin? You remember?
It was an accident in his lab. He was not an accident. Well, I mean, he was testing out weapons.
That's right.
That Oscorp was making.
Right. Oscorp, I remember
and
that. Yeah.
They were going to lose their funding, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Oh, and they didn't want to do human testing, so he tested on himself.
He just kind of jumped in and did it himself to speed it along or whatever.
Yep.
So now we're in this big fight, and I believe our out of character Doctor Strange ends up showing up.
Yeah.
Okay, so and Doctor Strange sees Peter's plans working.
Okay.
And then he even makes a comment to Ned, because he's like, "Do you open these portals and stuff?" And Ned's like, "Yeah, I open over." And he's like, "Oh, like we need to talk later."
I'm gonna keep my eye on you, boy.
Right.
Yep.
And then this is where all the universes are kind of colliding. So Doctor Strange is trying to take care of all that.
All hell's breaking loose.
And hold that all together. So in the meantime here, they're fighting the villains and curing them one at a time. They take care of the Lizard, they take care of Sandman. Finally, they take care of Electro. They get him with the serum. Last one left is Green Goblin. Green Goblin Green Goblin throws MJ off the kind of structure that they're fighting on. Tom Holland tries to jump and save her.
Throws her to her death.
And Tom Holland tries to save her, and but Green Goblin runs, hits him, and knocks him out of the way. And Andrew Garfield's character, Spider-Man, dives down and saves her, and starts crying because that's the same way that Gwen, his girlfriend, was his love of his life, was killed.
Which was not an MJ.
Right, it was not an MJ. And
yeah, it was kind of a cool moment because it was like he got to save MJ.
He saved,
And so I don't know. That was maybe a redeeming point for him, maybe, but probably very emotional.
Yep. And well acted.
Oh yeah, no, I liked it. It was good.
So at that point, then Tom Holland is like ready to, he's gonna kill Green Goblin.
Oh yeah, because he's pretty well pissed off.
Threw his girlfriend off a big building. So they fight. He ends up finally getting to get the serum in Green Goblin, and Green Goblin's like turns back into Norman, and he's like, what did I do?
Yeah.
And then all hell's breaking loose with the multiverse.
Yeah. And Strange is taking care of all that stuff, right?
Well, yeah, he is, but it's things are breaking and they're trying to figure out how to solve this. So
and this is all because Peter Parker wanted the world to forget him.
Yep. Yes, it is. So he tells Doctor Strange, what if everyone forgets me? What if we do this? No one will know
the right way.
The right way, and Doctor Strange says we can do that. That'll work, and that's what happens. And the spell
takes effect,
solves the multiverse problems,
and everyone forgets him. And he kind of shows up and sees MJ and Ned. They don't know him.
Yeah,
It's kind of a.
It was a kind of a surreal kind of scene. It was when he walks into that little
coffee shop where she was working,
and sees, and I think he's in the back of his mind, he's hoping that he can jar her memory, and he comes in and he
for
says,
a little bit there,
Parker.
it almost looked like she was, because she kind of brightened up to him a little bit in their conversation. And
yeah, so he comes in, he's gonna be like, I'm Peter Parker, and but nothing. It's just It was a sad. I think there were a lot of tears in the theater at that moment.
I guess I just can't get over that all that chaos and it all because he wanted the world to forget him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of you just own up to it. That's where, to me, it falls right back on. You know what? You're an Avenger. Own that, own it. But
right. Scooby-Doo that shit.
All
right, so then it ends. Movie's over. Credits come up, and then in usual Marvel fashion, we have
classic.
We have some post credits.
Yeah.
The main post credit is it shows Eddie Brock, Venom's character, sitting in a bar in like Hawaii or whatever, who he got brought into this universe when the universe crashed. So he's sitting at a bar and he's talking to the bartender and telling him all about this Thanos guy who took people away from snapped everybody away for 5 years and then they came back and this and that and he's just like, wow, this is crazy, And then when the universes come back, he gets snapped back to his universe, but leaves a drop of the Venom symbiote.
His symbiotic fluid is on the bar.
So now the Tom Holland universe, who did not have a Venom prior to this, is now going to have a Venom, which is probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they just use that in one of the next 3 movies.
Oh, sure.
Within the Spider-Man thing. I don't think they're going to go off on their own. I think they're going to use Venom as part of the Spider-Man and not have their own Venom.
They're setting up the next villain.
Yep, and that's that, and then more credits, and then the final the final post-credit scene is really just a trailer for the next Doctor Strange movie,
where he'll probably be acting like his normal self.
Hopefully,
yeah.
Hopefully he won't. I see Scarlet Witch in that. Hopefully Scarlet Witch won't ask him to get something off the top shelf, and he'll make a whole universe change because he needed to get a Tupperware bowl off drawer or something like that.
Right. All right. Well, we'd like to thank you for listening to No Way Home, or Web Shoot Swing, as I like to call it. We appreciate once again. We appreciate everyone who subscribed to the podcast and are following us. Tell a friend.
Thanks
a lot.
Why did it have to be snakes?
Ooh, I shouldn't have said